episode 108 of Strange Brow Radio. I'm your host, Tobe Johnson. Cup of coffee in hand, and two white rocks sitting on my desk for no reason. Random rocks. Like you needed to know all this, you lucky people. Today, our guest is extended experiencer of Sasquatch and oh so much more, Cindy Goodbreak. And we're going to talk to Cindy about everything that's happened to her in a moment. Thank you to our sponsor, Alex Whitcomb over at Drifted Creations. Check out Drifted Creations and Feral by Aaron, Alchemy Sound Tools. Mention Strange Brow Radio and get a little something extra in your box. Just write it in the body of the text. ERYN, Feral by Aaron is how you get a hold of her. Okay, hold on to your hats because we got some audio clips along with a great interview with my guest, Cindy Goodbreak. We'll be right back. Okay, perfect. So now, again, if you hear about any of our sponsors, just mention it in the body of the text that lets them know that we're mentioning them. And when it comes to Feral by Aaron, since she's my girlfriend and everything, you'll be able to get a little something extra stashed inside your Feral box. So just mention, hey, I heard about you on SBR and love to order something or love the show, whatever you love, just mention it. Also coming up, the Sasquatch Anomalous Audio Analysis Evolution or Class Conference coming up on February 6th and 7th. That'll be at Zoom. Go to the Strange Brow Radio Facebook page and await this class to be available also at strangebrowradio.com. There you will find the links and you can stream it as it's happening. That'll be on a Saturday and a Sunday, the 6th and the 7th. So we're going to start bright and early on the 6th and go till probably 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And then we are headed out to do live recording. And then we'll come back on Sunday the 7th and digress into downloading the audio. And so the majority of the class is going to be based upon each individual speaker's experience with recording, what they've noticed, and what they are doing different, because you're always changing things up, trying to get better recordings. And cameras just are harder to use in the field for whatever reason. Audio equipment is way easier to use. And so we'll be going over that. So if you've always wanted to learn, I'd like to start recording, but I'm kind of intimidated by the tech and downloading a program and what the heck is spectrogram and what kind of recorder to get. We'll go over all that stuff. And any questions you have, will be in a classroom setting to do this. And it should be pretty flawless as far as I'm concerned. So we're having our first practice session this weekend and going over some of the speakers' questions. And again, that's the February 6th and 7th. Okay, as I said, our guest today is going to be Cindy Goodbreak. She's an extended experiencer, no doubt about it. And because her experiences are extended, this is a 2-part interview and probably make it into a 3 and 4th part down the road. And hopefully we'll get out to her property to experience some of this ourselves in this year, 2021, after the snow melts. Okay, my conversation, part 1 with Cindy Goodbreak. All right, on the line with me now is extended experiencer galore, Cindy Goodbreak. Hello, Cindy. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah. All right, Cindy. So it's good to have you on the show. You've had a lot of experiences, not only with the cryptid phenomena of Sasquatch, but you've also had a lot of interesting other sounds and audio and video that you've sent to me over the last couple of weeks. So I'm glad to have you on the show. I think it'd probably be best if we start back from the beginning, describe your experiences or maybe your first experience or inclination with the phenomena as it presented itself, and just walk people through as much as you're comfortable with how you and your whole family got inundated with this phenomena?
Well, in 1998, I started doing some research online, and I'm from Texas, and so I was living east of Dallas by a place called Lake Tawakoni, and that's like 30 minutes from the what they call the Big Thicket in Texas. It's like three national forests. It's very popular, and so that's where I lived out in the country. We had horses. We had like 4 to 9 horses, different amounts at a time, and then we um, we moved up north. But in 1998, I met up with a group of people, and they just started. Um, let's see, I'm trying to think of. Have you heard of the Bigfoot Outlaws?
Yeah, I think they had a show for a while, didn't
Yes, it's kind of a funny name,
they? Mm-hmm.
but it's just easier for me to say that. At the time, though, that's not what they were called. But I just would go out with a lot of those guys, and we would hit up different parts of the woods. Um, and one other guy taught me how to like track in the woods and how to check out the different animal prints. And it's really amazing when you start looking at the wildlife prints. Like everybody knows a deer or whatever, but if you look at wherever you live, like what's out there, it's very interesting. Like at that time, it was like bobcat, I maybe cougar, deer. Um, I don't know what else was out there. So for like 4 years, we were heading out to the woods, and the guys that taught me a lot of things in the beginning, they grew up with these on their farms, like before the filming of Patty. Like their grandfather had these growing up, like in the turn of the century. So there was 2 people that I would go out with that knew about these, and they had different ideas. And one, he went by Kumbo. He talked about infrasound like in the 90s, and nobody, paid attention to him. Everybody thought you're crazy, but here we are talking about it. And we had some really crazy um, experiences out in the woods. I'll just tell you of one really quick. It affected a lot of people. We went to a place called Boykin. I think it was called Boykin Springs, and we had been there before. I don't remember a lot of this. I've had to call my friends and ask them like 3 or 4 times what happened, what happened. So we had like, I don't know if we had like 18 people there that night. There was more than usual um, that was there, and I don't remember why. Somebody invited them or something. I don't know. But so we were out there in the woods, and I was standing there next to my friend. Her name was Kelly, and I could see her like just standing in front of me. We had been there for a while. It's probably like after midnight sometime. I don't know what time it was. And we were standing out in the woods, and everybody was just out in the woods. Um, this is what we would do. Some people would look on a map. We'd go to that location. Um, they would make calls. I got really good with calls. I don't do that anymore. But we were out in the woods, and Kelly um, got like lit up. She like um you know sh I got hit like with something that froze me. Does that make sense? And I could not move for like, I don't know, 30 seconds. And then I just saw her like frozen there in the moment, and then I was released, but I could not move. That was like the one time I remember but other things happened to other people. There, we had a lot of activity, a lot of like Sasquatches, I guess, coming in. I didn't see them with my own eyes, but you could hear them. There was a whole bunch. There were some people with night vision, and I'm trying to think. We all just headed out, but some other things happened to some of the other people. Um, Lori, she is from Night Callers Radio. Have you heard of that show?
Yeah, that would have
Night
been
Callers
that's
podcast.
that's an old name from an old show that was has been around for a while.
Yes. So Lori did that show for a long time. I think her daughter does it now. Okay. But Lori was there and she had something happen to her. I think it was at that event. And then Bear was in the woods, and when we were headed back to the vehicle, um, he was like charged by one, or like to the truck. I did not see that, but some other people did, and it was crazy. So this was at Boykin Springs, and Bear has done podcasts. He's talked about it, and so has Lori. I've heard her on Nightcaller. So don't quote me exactly on their story, but I know what happened to me. And so people, when they asked me about that night, um, I just can't remember a whole bunch. And I've asked Bear, oh, like 3 times, what happened, what happened. So that was a crazy night. The Big Thicket, I've been there many times, camping with our horses, and also with the people that we have gone out with many times. And another place that we would go to, because my husband had family there, is Hoodoo, Oklahoma, southeast Oklahoma, and that's a really popular place.
Yeah, yeah, the major conferences.
Oh yeah, well, it was kind of a more of a like a festival, I would say,
Okay.
with a conference, like
Copy.
2 in 1. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you're getting to know these hot spot areas because you're interested and you're seeking after the phenomena.
So when I was 8 years old, I saw the Patty film. When I was young, I was, I don't know, 7 or 8, and ever since then, I never liked the woods. I, I mean, I lived in South Texas. I grew up on the beach, but when I moved to Texas, and we lived out in the country, and I didn't necessarily have woods around me, but more like in the the like 1,000 acres in the back where our horses would run. So we still had activity there, because across the street from where I lived, which was the county road, there was like a pit where they blow up for rock, like a gravel pit. I think that's what you call it. So we had activity there, and there was actually a story of a lady who lived 2 blocks over in 1998. She was trying to contact me, and what happened is she went on some board, and she said something happened with her son, um, and he saw, he said, like a Bigfoot watching him, and she was not home. I think he was a teenager, and she went on one of these boards, and then someone said, "Oh, that's close to you." So I was trying to contact her, but she just like, I couldn't find her. I couldn't locate her. It's like she just disappeared. I could not find her. I was trying to say, hey, where, what happened? It was like 2 county roads over, probably 5 miles from where I live. So there's a lot of woods where I lived. I just never researched on my own property, which was probably a good thing. Um, the I'm trying to think. Boykin Springs is a super hot area. We were there like before anybody else had gone there to research, and I've been there with my horses camping also in other parts of the forest there, and we've had other encounters. And probably for 4 years, 99, 2001, 2, 3. Probably, I would say like 3.5 to 4 years between the Big Thicket and Southeast Oklahoma. I could write like just one huge fat book on everything that's happened. So I started hearing all the different like sounds, um, the like at nighttime when they're just out doing their thing. It's a like some of the audio that I sent you. They're just out in the night. They're not necessarily howling, kind of just doing their thing. I don't know what they're hunting or whatever. And then there was another sound, like a siren sound. And I sent you an audio like that. Heard all of that in Texas. So I've heard huffs more up here where I live in my woods, and I've had people with me when this has happened. But as far as it's different from when you live on a property and it's happening when you and then when you go somewhere. It's so different. And also where I live too, there's huge, like different types. But in Texas, um, I'm going to tell you something right now. They are, I think that a lot of them are, I don't know, inbred or something, or they're just really aggressive. Um, and it just seems like every encounter that we've had out there, they were just always like charging us or in the woods, like just tearing up things. Now, we did a lot of interesting things in certain areas. We had found like, okay, like in this one area, I don't know if it was Boykin Springs, it could have been. We found a whole bunch of teepees, like structures in the woods, and like a whole bunch. And then they had found prints. Well, the next day, all of it was destroyed. I don't know if someone told any, like the ranger, the Texas Ranger, or the the fish and game. I don't know, but they were all destroyed. That I do remember. And also another interesting thing that happened quite a bit. We would see a lot of the structures, like or at least I did, and I've seen it up here on my property and on the mountain where I live. Uh, like if there was like a trailway, there would be a whole bunch of like arches, like just going down, just continuing and continuing, and then the teepees would be like under the arches. I don't know what that means, but that happened across the street here where I live on that acreage. Um, that was a crazy story. Um, but in Texas, I've had many encounters. Something that happened to me and my husband, we went camping. We took our horses, just me and him. We had this huge horse trailer. It's like 30 feet long. It was ugly, but it did the job. So, and inside of it was, it could haul like 6 horses, but I think he boarded off like, so 4 could fit in the trailer. And then we slept inside in the front. And so we went camping this one night. We took both of our horses, JJ and Isla. My husband has a thoroughbred, and I had a quarter paint. And JJ is just, simple. He's not spooked. My husband's horse, maybe a little bit more. So when we arrived there, my husband made a fire. My husband made a fire, and we were sitting outside for maybe 30 minutes, and I started hearing like a choir of a siren call, but on a lower octave, like kind of like angels singing, but a lot more like primate, I guess, even though I don't agree that that's what they are. Um, who's going to be doing this? Well, I mean, we were in the middle of nowhere, and we have been all over the big. I'm trying to think. It wasn't Boykin Springs. what town was close by, because we went down like these long rows, and I was like, oh my God, where are we? So what was that? We heard it all night long. And finally, I said, okay, that's it. Let's just tie up the horses and let's go inside the trailer. I'm ready to call it a night. Of course, my husband was not too happy because he wanted to sit outside and enjoy the fire. But I was too chicken, and I said, let's just go inside. So we went inside the trailer, and we had tied our horses up in the back, and I could hear it all like for a long time. And finally, I went to sleep, and that freaked me out. And then the next morning, when we woke up, the horses were gone. They were untied. We had tied them good, and they were untied. And I was like, well, where the heck are they? So my husband took off down the road to catch them. And some guy was passed by in a black truck, and he picked up my husband, and then he went and he got the horses. He came back riding him, hauling my horse, and we ended up riding that day for a little bit, but I was just like really creeped out. I tried to enjoy myself because my husband is not into this topic. He doesn't care about this topic, which is totally fine. It's not that he believes or doesn't believe. He just doesn't care. It's to him, this is a boring topic. So I tried to enjoy ourselves while we were there, and it was just creepy. I don't know what else to say. So then we came home, and we've had many, many adventures in the big thicket. The guy who shoot our horses, his name was Dan. He would tell us about this place in Oklahoma, and we would trailer our horses, and we would go to different places to ride, because where we lived, it's not like where I live here now. I did live out in the country, but it's not riding like where I live now. I can go up in the mountain or do whatever. So we would trailer our horses to go to different places in Texas. So this guy told us about this place called Hoodoo, and my husband goes, oh, I have an aunt there. And I was like, oh, that's cool. So in 1997, this is before I even started researching or anything. I wasn't looking, I wasn't looking at Bigfoot stuff, nothing. In 1997, he said, hey, let's go to Oklahoma so you can meet my aunt. His aunt is a broker, she's passed away. She was a realtor and a broker in the town of Tallahena, which is just 17 miles down the road. So we went to go see her, and then we spent like a night there, and then we told her we were going to go camp and check out the area of Hoodoo. And back then, all that they had was like a store that was a post office and a store, and there was maybe a couple of cabins and whatever else was there, a church or something. So from 1997 until the time I left, we took our horses up there many, many times. And in 1997, when we went to go meet his aunt, we we camped out in somewhere out there in Hoodoo, and my husband had made a fire, and we were sitting around, and I heard that siren sound. I can't do it, but it was, oh my God, it was so loud. I thought, what the heck is that? I asked my husband, what is that? I said, is that an ambulance? He's like, it's not an ambulance. So what the hell? What is that? It's not a coyote. It's not a bear. Well, I've never was like, now keep in mind, that was when we just started camping. So I technically had not been out camping a whole bunch, and I wasn't sure I was really going to like it, but so it was that obvious, okay? It was so different. I put my head down to the ground like, what am I going to hear? And that went on for so long, and it was like the 38-second audio that I sent you from the morning of February 14th, 2019. It was just like that, but a higher pitch, like the nighttime version, I guess, because the one you have is like the morning, I guess. And there is a difference. It's the same call, but it's different. So there's one. So that one that I heard at night was like a higher octave, and it was crazy, and it wasn't even that late. And the next year is when I thought, holy crap, because I heard that sound in when we were in the big thicket, and it was the same sound that I heard the first night when we were camping out there in Honobi.
All right, let me see if I can play a couple of these sounds here because you have some interesting audio and video that you've shot over, and we haven't even got to Idaho yet, where things have followed you home. So let's.
Oh yeah.
You'll tell me if this is the right clip. I only have two different howls, and I'm not quite sure if they're stacked up in the wrong order. So let's try this one here.
It's okay. If you play it all, I'll explain it. My God. Holy shit. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so explain to people what the circumstances are, because now we're jumping a little bit ahead in the story because that was recorded in Idaho, right?
Yes, but you can just use that as an example, and we'll get to Idaho eventually.
Mm-hmm.
But I did get that in here from where I live in. That was Valentine's Day, 2019, and um, so I'll explain about that video later when we get into Idaho. Do you want
But
me to
just to
keep?
give an imprint, now is that what you heard though? That was
Yes,
okay. And before we move
same
on
thing.
from that too, I want to ask you about this. You said a choir of angels singing. Um, was it really sounding like a choir of angels, or did it sound different than that?
So what you just heard there,
Mm-hmm.
it sounded like there was like 50 of those on a lower octave, and they would do it for like 30 seconds and then stop, and then it would go again for different lengths of time, and it just sounded really sad, like they were at a funeral or something. I mean, and I've heard that same choir sound. I call it choir sound because it's a sad, lonely, long moan. It's like
Mm-hmm.
between a moan and a howl,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a whole bunch of them, and it was so weird. I've heard that same like moan on a ridge here close to where I live, um, but so it's in the same family, I guess, just more broader, more solo of a deeper, like one one making that sound versus a whole bunch of them. So I just call it a choir of that same sound of a moan, kind of like what you heard.
What did the horses do?
So the horses took off when we were camping, and my husband went and got him.
Now,
Uh,
during that
I
moan,
don't
were the horses in front of you in the trailer, or were they outside locked up?
No, they were, well, we were outside for a little bit and we had tied them up though. And then we went inside the trailer. So I don't remember them doing anything. So probably nothing.
They
They
didn't
were fine.
react. They weren't,
No.
bucking or anything.
Oh, no,
Okay.
no, because they were tied up. But in the
Mm,
morning when we woke up, because we were inside
mm,
the cabin, we
mm,
came out, they were gone. So, and they were tied really well. They were tied double, however, my husband, he's been in the military. He
mm,
knows how to do all those, knots. So they were tied up really, really good. Because
mm.
I was telling him, don't shackle them. Just, I don't like that when you hobble them.
Right,
I said, just tie them up. They were
right.
gone.
And Ron Moorhead tells a story similar to at the Sierra camp where his horses were taken off the leads, and they're absolutely sure that the leads were. In this case, I think they had to unfasten the fastener in order to do it. So the kind of security doesn't really matter to the phenomena. It can unsecure whatever, however it wants. So okay, so you know they're there. At this point, though, you're experiencing Bigfoot action on a degree that most people are envious. And so here your husband's not really into it. You've taken uh, some kind of interest in it to the point where you may be somewhat, you describe maybe being a little fearful about the woods, seeing the patty stuff, but
Mhm.
now you're getting accustomed to camping. You're becoming slowly a squatcher. And so, talk to me about this process here, and your interest is going back into the early 90s, which is really interesting because a lot of this stuff for people has only happened recently, and you've
Mhm.
been doing
Oh
this
no.
for a long time.
Yes. So something extraordinary has happened to me. Actually, my transition, which I'll get into, because I'm just, I just wanted to know. Okay, first off, I was freaked out that there was Bigfoot in Texas. Like I thought they were only in the up here, the PN, inland PNW, whatever. I was like, what? So I met people from like the GCBRO, the Gulf Coast Bigfoot Research Organization, and also the people I hung out with. And also, have you heard of Texas Bigfoot Research Center?
I think they've been around a while. Yeah.
Okay, well, I was had hooked up with Luke Gross and Craig, and they had formed it, and
Is
it
that
was
Wool
just us
Heater?
three. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, those guys have
So
been around
I
a while.
Yes. So I actually started out with those guys too. I've been out a couple of times with them, but then they wanted to expand the organization, and we had been on a couple of outings. And Luke taught me a whole lot. He's like probably the one person that I'm going to put a stamp on that knows everything. Him and Bear. I mean, just in the beginning, it was just us three, and he taught me a lot of stuff, and we had gone out in the woods. He's very patient. I was just like I became obsessed. I mean, I'm just going to tell you, I would work. I'd come home. I had a 4-year-old. I take off. I mean, it was crazy. My husband, that's why he doesn't like to talk that, because I would come home. He's like, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going with, to the big thicket. He would be like, so
Right.
it was a serious problem. I'm not kidding. I was like obsessed.
Mhm.
So I had to. So
But this is an interesting dynamic, real quick, Cindy, that this is usually guys doing this to the wives, husbands. So it's interesting hearing a female's perspective about being addicted.
oh, you don't even know. It was bad. And
Oh,
here
I think I do know.
and here I am. Oh yeah, of course you would. And here I am with a young child. Okay, so I want to talk about, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Honobi was Okay, so my husband's aunt, he has cousins there and whatever in Talihina and in Honobi. Now, my husband's aunt was friends with the Humphreys. Did you hear about the event there that
The
happened
siege at
to?
Hanobi.
Yes.
Hmm.
Have you heard of that?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Okay. So before I even, or I think like right when I had heard about it,
Are we saying it
my
right? Is it Hanobi, or how do we say it? Am I saying it wrong? Huh.
I call it Hanobi,
I'm
but
gonna trust you. Okay.
well, but people correct me and say it's Honobi. So
Okay.
whatever,
All
Honobi,
right.
Honobia, I don't know.
All right.
Okay, but here's the scary thing. My so we would go riding to Oklahoma like a lot, like 2 times a month. So like in the fall. So and then in summertime, it's a little bit hotter. But so at that time, I was friends like with people from different organizations, and my aunt called me and she's like, "Hey, did y'all hear about blah blah blah?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And then I heard about it, and she's like, "Yeah, and here you are, y'all are riding your horses up there in the Kiamichi Mountains, the Washita Mountains, you know, and this is really bad." And I believe her. I see, because the whole story kind of was made into like a clown show, a shit show. Can I say that? Whoops, sorry. And the BFRO, was there, so I'm not going to defend or talk bad about them. Um, okay, no, I am going to talk bad about them. Well, because my aunt knows them, and I was there. I
Right.
know what happens there.
Yeah.
I know these guys from the country, and the
Yeah.
Humphreys are not these stupid hicks from the country, or I shouldn't even say that, because, you know, they are smart people and they are credible people. And what happened to them was not good and not fair. And they wanted these things gone. They didn't want to be a science project or nothing like that. And the hunter, unfortunately, because they wanted a hunter, I don't know, he was asleep, he didn't get the job done. Some of them were scared. This is what I'm talking about. And here I am riding around by myself, because what we would do is we would go there. Sometimes we would just go with us with our horses, or like with other family members or friends, and we'd take our horses and just go riding. I did not go there with anybody to do expeditions. I didn't. That was specifically my time, or if we were out there with the family. So here I am one day. Everybody took off, and I stayed back at camp. We were actually there in October with a whole bunch of people, because what we would do is, um, the guy who shoed our horses, he invited us to this encampment where there was like 80 or 100 people, and every October we would go. It started with the family, and so so we were invited, and it was so much fun. Some days I would ride 30 miles, um, and then I'd come back, and then I'd stay back in camp, and then somebody might borrow my horse who didn't, because my horse was perfect. Um, so I would stay back at camp, because if I rode one day for 30 miles, I'm good. It's like I just want to sit back here. So somebody else who has kids, they could go riding, because my son would stay back at camp. So we helped each other out. So this one day though, I stayed back at camp, and I had just got JJ, my horse, and I thought, oh, I'm going to take him up this hill over here. So he was saddled up already, and I had hopped on him. And our dog was with us. This dog, she was part coyote, I don't know, part Catahoula. She was really, really a really smart dog. So she came with me, and I went over this hill, and I saw like this log, and then all of a sudden, my horse just his ears just went down, and then he flipped around and he went. My phone's going on. He ran down the hill, and my dog, her hair just went up, and she just showed her teeth. And I thought, oh crap, this is not the time to try to control my horse. So I just let him run, and he ran down the hill. I was holding onto the mane, to the horn. One foot was in the stirrup, the other foot was just in case. I was ready to get off the horse. Okay, I didn't want to be dragged, because I had a horse accident in '97, and I broke my foot. Or anyway, so in my mind, so now I'm trying to learn how to ride again without being so fearful. He goes straight back to camp. And his flanks are just ticking. And there's a member there that is Choctaw. And so the people that had been out riding, some of them had come back in. He took my horse and took him into the creek. He just took him into the creek, and he was saying something in his language, but he was talking about me. I said, "What are you saying?" He said, something about you shouldn't be. And I said, I was just going up the hill. And he says, don't you get it? You're like a beacon already. And I had not talked about Bigfoot. Well, I mean, somewhat I had. So he,
Now, wait a second. So this Native American is telling you you're a beacon.
mm-hmm.
He's reading you, and you haven't brought up Sasquatch.
No.
Okay, continue.
So I think Mike, my husband, came back, and I think he kind of gave me a couple of words. And then
Well,
we
what did you done wrong?
I don't know.
I'm trying to figure out
I
why would you get a couple words?
I went off, I guess, by myself, and I had said I didn't want to ride, and then my horse was all spooked. So now he's all spooked, and then he wouldn't listen, and he was trying to tie him up, because some people, like, when your horse won't listen, you have to, like, tie him up, like, say, to a tree to train him. And he was trying to do something, and I was not agreeing. I was getting mad, and he was like, well, you know what, you're just like taking off with him, and like, and so I was like, whatever.
Is that unusual for you to go riding alone like that?
I've done it a couple of times.
Right. But as far as like being into horses, is that something that's not suggested? Like you always go riding in pairs and you did something irresponsible?
Not when you have the attraction that I do. It's not safe to go do stuff like that anywhere alone. Does that make sense?
You're
It's
talking
like,
about being a beacon for Sasquatch again.
Yeah, or for anything, which at that time was only that. I didn't know anything else that was around. I am Native American myself, but not from up here. My my family comes from Mexico, like at the turn of the century, and my great grandmother was like 100%, I don't know, Mayan or something. So that travels in your bloodline, I guess, traits. I was never into any of that stuff. But after that happened, I was like, what are you talking about? He said something in his language. I was like, what are you talking about? And he just like, kind of like spit when he said something. I'm like, oh, what the hell? I'm sure. And then I didn't say anything. And then when my husband
But did
came
you
back,
kind
then
of, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but did you kind of know
I didn't know
that
what he
that
was
was the
talking about.
case? No, as far as you being a beacon, though, I mean, you've had plenty of experiences. Were you even flirting with the idea that you
No,
were?
I wasn't trying to find
No,
anything. I was just trying to go off on a ride by myself.
right. But I'm talking about previous experiences, things where the phenomena is coming to you. Did you ever feel as though the phenomena was approaching you as an individual, rather selecting you?
Um, like if I go into the woods, like if it's just choosing me, is that what you're
Right,
saying?
right. Yeah. I mean, did you feel like you had been chosen by the phenomena or by the supernatural or by whatever we're going to call this at all?
Yeah, for sure. When he said that, I was, like, I didn't know at the time when my horse was coming down the hill, but later I was like, it was like it clicked like later. And it's been like that ever since.
Right. But just, I want to harp on this a little bit. Was it odd for him to say that, or did your gut tell you, like, well, I guess he's probably right? I mean, did you fight what he was saying at all mentally?
No, because I didn't know what he was saying until, because he
Okay.
was using some of his language, and then I was like, what? I knew he was
Mm-hmm.
talking about me because he was taking JJ like in a circle like that, and then he was just standing there, and he was petting the horse, and then he was doing something with his mane. I thought it was really strange, and
Mm-hmm.
then he came out and he was saying something. I was like, what? And then he just made some comments, and I was like, what does that mean? And he says, something about an attract, a beacon, don't be going out in the woods, you should know better. And it didn't dawn
Right.
on me what he was talking about until later. I got it like later.
Gotcha.
Does
Okay,
that
I understand. So
satisfy?
you heard it. You were slightly maybe irritated at the whole thing, and then you thought about maybe what he was implying. You don't know for certain, but you kind of figure that's what he
Yeah,
was
so he was
implying.
reading me. I didn't know what he was talking. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So
Okay. All right. Nice. And you never had any communication with him
no,
again?
no,
No.
never saw him
Okay.
after that. Cause and then and then we had um, I can tell you another story that happened. We were
Well, hold on. I want to know
uh,
more about your Native American roots on your mother's side in particular. Looking back at your grandmother, maybe if you knew her or your mother, were you close?
okay, so that this is on my dad's side.
The Native
Yes.
American is.
My
Okay.
dad is so my dad's grandmother was my aunt or something, and I
Right.
they called her Nachita, and I vaguely remember her when I was like 5, because my so my father's mom, my immediate grandmother, she I'm sure she had something in her, but it was his so it's my father's dad's mom.
Right.
Okay.
hmm
So that's who I'm talking about. Yeah, I'm getting confused here
Well,
with
right.
his
But
mom.
looking into your Native American history, was there ever any stories or any inkling about not only Bigfoot but about uh, the supernatural being attached to your
Oh, no,
family on your mother's side or your dad's side?
no, never.
Nothing
No,
like
the
that.
only thing that's actually kind of funny, but this is not nothing unique to me. In the heritage of growing up, like in Texas, whenever like we were being bad, we would be threatened with things like the lechusa is going to get you, which is a owl that turns into a lady or something. There's like, we would be threatened with stuff like that. Like, my mom, they would tell us in Spanish, si no te, whatever, la lechusa is going to come and get you. So I was like, what's that? So with folk tales like that, the only indication is that my great grandmother, Nachita, she was into like um herbs and making salves, and she has popped up a couple of times. And people that have read me, they would say, your great grandmother's right there, your great. I was at the International Bigfoot Conference. Have you heard of that?
Yep.
I was there in 2018 or 2019, and this guy had a booth. He was like from, I don't know, Germany or somewhere. Germany, Canada. And he had a podcast. And I was asking, oh, like, how's your podcast? And he was asking me questions, and I was like, what is this, 50 questions? He was asking me a lot of questions, and I was telling him about like my life over here and about my kid who was like this magnet. And then he said, well, your great grandmother is standing next to you. This guy does not do a podcast for cryptids. He's just into like what's the word, like a what is the word, like he can look at you and do like a reading, but his podcast was like a combination, I guess, of supernatural stuff.
Okay, so he's like
So
a
she's popped up a
medium
couple
of
of
some
times,
kind.
but no, there's no, like no tie or anything that
Right.
I
So you
ever
don't
heard
get
about.
visited, or you don't have dreams of family members that are helping you as guides or anything like that.
I wake up a lot at 3 a.m. and I talk with Rich
Germo.
Germo. Am I
Right.
saying it?
I
I'm
mean,
terrified. I just say
no.
Rich G.
Yeah,
I've talked to him a couple.
Rich is up at 3:30 doing push-ups and squats, and by 4
I was
o'clock
like, dude.
cut a cord of wood. So I'm up at 3. I'm up at 4:30 talking to him. So he must have just left you.
Well, okay, so I wake up quite a bit, like at 3 or 3:30, and then I do go back to sleep, and then I eventually get up. That's why I have like bags under my eyes. It's like, stop waking me up, assholes. So something is waking me up. So I don't know, like that night when you took that video, which I'll tell you more about it here when I went outside. We were woken up at 2:30, and it sounded like howling. I have no freaking idea, but I don't overload on dreams. I don't think I've ever had any dreams where, I mean, maybe I've had some dreams I just don't remember. Like,
I mean, it's interesting because I know only a little bit about your story, and you're salt of the earth, honest, good, red-blooded American. But at the same time, you're experiencing what a lot of us are experiencing, which drags you down this new age portal where it's just like, okay, to understand this thing, now I got to start collecting crystals. Are you serious? I got to go out here and, look at these weavings. It really takes ordinary people and puts them in extraordinary situations. So I'm just trying to check how prepared you were for this
wasn't.
direction you're at. You're totally not prepared.
No,
Hmm.
because in my mind, they're just a creature out in the woods. Okay, I'm not into like any of this other phenomena stuff. I was just out there looking for something for flesh and blood. And everybody to this day, if anybody's hearing this podcast, they're probably going to like unfriend me or something. But hey, I'm sorry. I just got to tell my truth, right? So here we are. I've had all these crazy encounters. One night we were in Oklahoma, and it was just me and my husband, and I think my younger son wasn't born yet. I think it was just three of us. We were in the tent. We didn't take our horses. We just went to camp
Right.
by the creek or the whatever it was. And around midnight, you could hear them coming, like that video I sent you. Ooh, it was like over here to my right, and then an hour later they'd be like somewhere behind me. They circled us all night long, and I finally got to sleep around 6 a.m. and I swore I was never gonna go back there. I think that was the last time that I camped out. Um, I should probably give you a little bit more information. That was 2003, I think. No, it was 2001 because we were talking about possibly because my husband was active duty about moving. So they must have known something because I mean, we had gone horseback riding still in 2002 and 2003, but that was so strange. All night long, they serenaded us around. You know, my husband woke up sometime in the night, and my husband woke up and he went to the truck and he opened up the truck because I heard it go ding, 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 ding. And he got out the shotgun and he's standing there and he closed the truck. And he had a pistol already in the tent, but you could hear this like far off, not like there. Oh hell no, I'll be packing up, going. But it was like further out, like around. But it was like a perfect circumference. And he said, "Hey, are you awake?" And I don't know if I said anything, but I was just like laying there thinking, this is the last freaking time I am coming out here. I'm done with this whole thing. I don't know what's wrong with me. I am done. I'm good. I am moving on. I am not going to be out here anymore doing this. I'm asking for, in my head, from a Christian standpoint, at that time, I was told it's probably Cain. You don't need to be out there looking for him. I mean, I had pastors telling me this. You're a witch. You shouldn't. Why do you want to go out there and do that? You know what? That pissed me off. That made me mad. I mean, how weird is that? In my head, that's all that they were. They were just a creature, really smart. They knew how to hide really well. So a lot more
That
stuff.
puts you in a really interesting position too, to where your worldview is starting to shift away from, and I'm not saying this is true, but I'm speaking from a personal experience. You're starting to grow out of your religion, not losing it, but you're starting to explore options that are taboo.
Bingo. Because
Mhm.
at that time, I started thinking, okay, hold on. There's so much more out there. And I don't think I'm a bad person because I'm asking about it. So the war started, the Afghanistan Iraq war, and things got really, really busy. My going out was less and less because when I was pregnant, I was 7 months pregnant. This is probably going to freak some people out because I've already been attacked about this. Um, so my older son now is seven, and we want to move. So in 2002, I had been trying to get pregnant. I couldn't get pregnant. A lot of stress from my outings. I think that played a part um, in me not getting pregnant. I know that sounds crazy, but I just know that combined with my husband might be going to Iraq. Oh crap. I could not get pregnant. And then eventually I did. It was like, oh my God, it was like a miracle. So then my son was born, Justin, in 2003. And at that time, we knew we wanted to move. And so I went out on less expeditions, but I was 7 months pregnant and I was in Oklahoma on an outing with a bunch of people. Here I am, I'm like ready to blow any day, okay? I
Right.
was like 7 or 8 months pregnant. I'm even surprised they let me come on this. Are you kidding me? I didn't go. I just stayed at camp. I was like asleep the whole time. And that was it. It was crazy. So
That
Justin was
really
born.
points to where you were emotionally with having an experience, because that really is something.
Well, I'm just realizing that like these last couple of years, we were just stressed out as a family, because just, everything with the military, plus I had a career and, just all this stuff. And then I was thinking I'm a bad person, I'm asking for it. So then my husband put in his paperwork. Justin was born. Are you kidding? As soon as he was like 7 weeks old, I was taken off again. My husband, he's a good person. Things were really tense between us at the time, and he's got that military mind going, right? So he's got to get a unit ready to go to Iraq, whatever. So I was surprised or not surprised when he said, let's go, let's move to Montana. So I was like, we had gone to Montana in 2001. That was something I didn't tell you too. We took a trip to Montana, no, 2002, because I was pregnant. We went to Augusta, Montana. There's a place there, a lodge. So we went there. We didn't take our horses. We just took a RV and we drove there for like 3 days straight. And we stayed at the camp. I loved it. My husband, he's an excellent horseman. So he met up with the owner and the wranglers, and he took his own saddle. We didn't take our horses, but he did. I can't do nothing. I'm pregnant. So my older son, who was like, I don't know what time, how old he was, 7, 6, whatever. He was young. We had taken an RV. So here we are in Augusta, Montana, in the Bob Marshall Wilderness. I am pregnant. I really can't do anything. So I've spent my days at the lodge, which it's not like a fancy lodge, like by any means. It's like a turn of the century working ranch. So I hung out there, or or I slept. And my older son, who was very young at the time, he would go play with some of the other kids that were there. And my husband, oh, he was in his element. He took some of the supplies with some of the other wranglers down the mountain, up the mountain, and it's got like the mountains over there have like that shale where it's really dangerous. You have to get
Hmm.
off the horse.
Sure.
So, well, my husband's a very experienced rider, so they let him go with them, and he helped take down some like supplies for the city slickers um, that would fly into, I don't know, Great Falls. It was like Great Falls was like 60 miles away. So here we are in the Barb Marshall Wilderness, and I just thought, oh, this is so beautiful. I've got to, we have to come back here. I just like fell in love with the place. I've always liked horses. I've always liked wide open spaces. And so when my husband said, let's move, I was like, yeah, heck yeah. So when he put in his paperwork, there was nothing in Montana. There was something in Pennsylvania, heck no. Or up here where I live, North Idaho. So he put in his paperwork and he ended up coming up here the end of Christmas, January the 1st. He called me from, guess where? Wallace, Idaho.
Right. Love it.
He called me from,
Center of the universe. If people don't know.
yes, Wallace is a lovely town. He called me and he said, "You're not gonna believe this. I'm on this. It's beautiful. It's snowing because I hate snow, and I live in the freaking snow belt. So, and I was like, of course, it being in Texas, I was like, oh yeah, I can't wait. Yeah, I hate it now that I live here. So that was so awesome. So I stayed back in Texas with a kid. So now my older son is like 7 or 8, and my youngest son is 18 months. Well, actually, he was 1 when my husband left. So now I'm not researching. I'm not doing anything. I'm just trying to get my house in order. And my husband was active guard reserve AGR over the motor pool. So some people don't understand what that is.
But he's
But
attached in Idaho, not overseas, and he's kind of
no,
working
he's
a
up
day job.
here
Yeah.
in Hayden Lake, Idaho, over
Mm.
the. He was over 321st.
Right.
Okay, well, anyway, so I stayed home, and so
This is where you are now.
yes,
This is where you're talking
this
to
is
me.
where I'm at now.
Okay, so you get a ranch, you get a large size acreage. How many acres are we talking?
Only 6.
Okay, well, that's still quite a bit of land. You still have horses?
No, I sold my horses in 2011.
Okay. And how many kids are now on there? Because I saw there's still 2.
Yeah,
Okay. So
no,
the
they're
photographs that
grown
I
now.
saw of you that looked like it was out of National Geographic where you're all standing together with shotguns.
Oh yeah,
Is that your extended family with you?
okay, so that was my husband and me
Uh-huh.
and my younger son that you saw on the left. And then my
Right.
older son is on the right with his fiance at that time. They
Gotcha.
married this year. Okay, so that's my
Okay.
daughter-in-law. Yes, that was a
Uh-huh.
great picture. She's a great photographer. So it was Christmas in that picture, and she put up her little stand thing, and we all just stood there with our weapons,
Oh,
and
it's great.
took the picture. Isn't that a great
Okay.
picture?
So what is the first thing that you noticed that let you know they were around? Was it a sound? Was it a gift? Was it a sighting? What was the first moment that you knew that they knew who you were? All right, so that is part 1 with my talk with Cindy, and part 2 next week. We're working on some interviews coming up here. I'm excited to release those, and I had mentioned before that one of those interviews is with the producer and the mind behind Monster Quest. Really interesting guy, and I was surprised by some of the details here. He's also the one that wrote the single sheet on something that we've talked about and now has a coined term called Alba Vernix. We're going to go into what that is and why you should pay attention for it. It's really interesting stuff. So that may or may not be connected to something we do in the future, and I'll let you know more about that as the notes start to get progressed on that one. Also, part 2 of the Skookum Creek adventure. I got part 1, but the weather came in. Now I got to go get part 2, so I'll head back up into the mountains as soon as the weather gets better. I got my credit card hacked, debit card, so I'm waiting right now at the house for snail mail to get me my debit card, and then it'll be a lot easier to go do this kind of stuff. You never know how vulnerable you are to not only getting hacked, but just in general getting around with only cash on hand. Some people don't even accept cash anymore, so it's kind of a bummer. So as soon as that gets back in my wallet, we'll be heading back up into the mountains. All right, if you want to be a guest, you can do that at strangebrowradio@gmail.com. Shoot me an email, anonymous if you like. And if you're interested in getting some merch, that always helps the show. You can go to strangebrowradio.com and go to the merchandise, or you can go re-up your Patreon amount. Also, you can go onto YouTube and make a donation at the PayPal account there. There's a link right at the YouTube banner. So we are moving right along. I will see you next week. If I don't see you sooner, I will see you in the trees.